Welcome once again to our Learn at Home program. My name is Teacher Uche Owele, and I am your English teacher for today. And today we'll be looking at the topic formal letter, and this is targeted for JS3, but I'm sure JS1 and 2 students will have a lot to learn from it. So welcome. In today's lesson, we will consider some objectives. And one of such objectives is, what is a formal letter? Or what are formal letters? We will also consider the features, and I expect that you should be able to mention at least 4 features of a formal letter. Then I would expect you at the end of this class to be able to write a good formal letter. Do you get that? Okay, so what is a formal letter? I'm sure you've heard of a letter before, but for the purpose of this lesson, we will say a letter is a written message that is addressed to someone. And I'm sure in your previous classes, you had the types of letters, such as the formal letter and informal letter. So today, what we'll be concentrating on what a formal letter is, or what are formal letters. So we say formal letters are simply official letter. Did you get that? An official letter. These are letters that are written to persons in authority, an organization, or an establishment. When you write a letter to persons in this authority, you are expected to write a formal letter. Okay, so do you have a principal in your school? What about a head teacher? If you need to write to the principal of your school, or to the head teacher, or to the editor of a newspaper, to the head of an organization, maybe even the minister. If you have to write to the president of our country, or a state governor, or even the counselor of your environment, you have to write a formal letter. This is because you are talking official matters. So official matters are addressed in formal letters, and for us to write to people in authority, we write a formal letter. Okay, so let's look at what are the purposes of a formal letter. A formal letter are official letters. Some people call them business letters. You write them to complain. Maybe about your school, something is not working. Maybe you want something for your school. Maybe you want a project to be carried out in your community. You can write a formal letter to make inquiries, to complain about services, to register your disappointment, to even apply for a job. You can write a formal letter to appreciate a governor for something he has done. You can write a formal letter to place orders for business purposes. Is that clear? So you can also write a letter to an editor in a newspaper. Sometimes in your school you're given a task to write to the editor of a newspaper or a magazine. So what kind of letter would you write? To publish an article, you need a formal letter. You can write a formal letter to give suggestions. And these are many purposes or uses, if you like, of a formal letter. So, you want a job, you can apply. You want a contract, you can apply. All this application can be done using a what? A formal letter. Okay, so let's look at the features of a formal letter. How does a formal letter look like? How is it written? In this lesson, I will take you through two features of a formal letter. We will consider the physical structure. How is the physical appearance of a formal letter? What and what should be physically present in a formal letter? And then, secondly, we will also consider the formal language or style in a formal letter. Okay? So, let's take the physical structure of a formal letter. What and what should be physically present in a formal letter or is visible, just mere looking at it? The first thing you would notice in a formal letter, which differentiates it from every other kind of letter, is two addresses. There are two what? Addresses in a formal letter. The first address is the writer's address. And many a times we tell you this is found at the top right corner of your paper. This is what we mean. The top right corner of your letter. This here, on the top right corner of your letter, you put your address. I'm sure you know how to write an address. A description of the environment or where the letter is coming from. You put it down so that whoever receives the letter can write you back. That address on the top right corner is known as the writer's address. Do you get it? Okay. We said it has two addresses. So what is the second address? The second address has to be the receiver's address. Which organization are you writing to? Which authority are you addressing in your letter? These form the second address, and we call that the receiver address or the addressee. So we have it just below the date of the first address, but this time not on the top right, but just on the left after the date. Okay, so that is one of the physical structure you will find in a formal letter. Another physical structure you will see in a formal letter is a fully written date. No abbreviation, no 27/11/2020. No, the address has to be written fully. So you say 27th November in full, please. 27 November 2020. The date has to be fully written. Okay. Another feature you will notice in a formal letter is a title. A title. A title or heading. What is a title? A title has to be what is the summary? Like, what is the purpose of your writing? Just in a sentence. What are you writing for? That forms the title of your letter. Okay? So we have, after the title, you have the salutation or greeting. And most officially, we use the dear sir or the dear madam. But preferably, you can simply say dear sir, whether it's a female or a male, in case you don't know the gender of whoever is heading such organization. So preferably, you say dear sir. Another physical feature you will see in a formal letter is that the content is well developed. A well-developed body. Okay? The purpose of your writing. Straight to the point. Sir, application for job. I'm writing to apply for a job in your organization. Or I'm writing to register a complaint about the bad water or bad road situation in my area. You get it. Straight to the point. Okay? And then we will also look at another physical feature, which is the closure. How do you end a formal letter? In ending a formal letter, we use yours faithfully. Yours what? Faithfully. Simple. That closes your letter, and then you can have, in this case, you can also have your signature signed. Your signature signed just after your full name. After you would have written your full name, you have to sign it, and below such signature, you put your designation. What do I mean by designation? What post or office you occupy. For example, I'm a teacher. If I'm writing to my head teacher in my school, I can put my designation as what? Teacher. Okay, so let's quickly run to the next feature of a formal letter, which is the formal language style. And this is also a guide when you're writing. Please take note of this. Familiarity is avoided completely when you're writing a formal letter. You have to be polite, that's correct. You have to be respectful and cautious, but even if you know whoever that's in such authority or position, you don't have to show your familiarity. So you avoid words such as daddy, you know, I am sure you will know. Straight to the point, whatever you want to say, avoid being informal in your use of language. Also very important in writing your formal letter is that you have to be what? No informal expression. You must avoid slangs. Greetings, okay, is allowed. Like we say, dear sir, that's a registered salutation or greeting. And then you must avoid contracted forms. You don't say isn't. You don't say can't. You don't say wouldn't. You don't say shan't. Okay? You make use of the full forms of words. Formal setting. You don't say you know. You don't know. Okay? So you try to avoid slangs. You try to avoid contracted forms of words in writing your formal letter. Okay. Very quickly, your language has to be simple, clear, and direct. So in formal letter, we encourage you to be very simple, clear, and make direct expressions. No cutting corners, just straight to the point. This is because it's official letter, and many a times the reader wants you straight to the point. No cutting corner, no illustrations, except for emphatic purposes. So you go straight to whatever you want to say in your letter and make them very clear and direct. Do avoid ambiguous expressions. Very important. Okay, so another key feature or guide while writing a formal letter in a language or style is that you have to be careful of the use of your word, punctuations. Okay? Don't just punctuate anyhow. If you're not very familiar with how the punctuations should be properly guided, we ask you to use open punctuation, meaning you use minimal punctuations, such as full stops at the end of a paragraph or a sentence, so that you don't run into trouble with punctuating your letters. Okay. Having discussed thus far, I'm sure you got one or two things. Let me ask you some very important questions to review today's lesson. One, can you tell us what are formal letters? What are formal letters? Okay. Formal letters are official letters. One sentence. They are letters written to persons in authority, and you can list as many of that. Okay, can you mention any 4 futures that you can find in formal letters? Find 4 futures, physical futures, yes, so that by the mere looking at a letter, you know it is a formal letter. In summary, these futures include writer's address and receiver's address, 2 addresses, and then the date, we say it should be fully written. The salutation, can you remember what we said is preferred? Dear sir, of course. Then the title, a formal letter has a title. And then the body of your letter, which is written in paragraphs. And we say these are the purpose or reason why you are writing. And finally, the closure, which I said has to be signed with your full name written and position or designation written under it. Okay, so what are formal letters? What are the futures of formal letters? Finally, let me give you an assignment. And I expect you will do it. You can send it to the contact which will be made available to you. My assignment for you is write a letter to the principal of your school to request her to organize a literary and debating competition in your school. Can you put up such a letter? I'm sure you know what kind of letter to write. Thank you very much, and that will be all for today's lesson. For your inquiries or feedback in English lesson, you can send your questions to 080-906-12399, and be sure we will give you feedback. My name remains Teacher Uche Owele, and see you next time.